Senior advocate, I want to ask you, when you look at the way things are right now in the country, across the board, you talk about security, you talk about the economy, you talk about the fight against corruption, naturally there will be opposition from opposition parties. But there has even been advice coming from inside of your party to the president about some of the things that have not been happening and some of the things that have been happening. When you think about, for example, Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai's memo that was released and sent to the president, he outlined quite a number of things that he felt the president was falling short in achieving in view of the promises he made. Are there not legitimate concerns on the part of the party that they have not been able to get done what they promised they would get done in 2015?
There should be legitimate concerns. Absolutely. Nobody is saying, nobody has come and said to say that the president or the government achieved 100% of what he set out to do. But in the circumstance that we found ourselves, in the context in which, we found ourselves, especially the circumstance, what we have now, the performance, what we have now, and I say this without being sycophantic, is a miracle. It's an overperformance. And don't misquote me. It's not what we want, but in the circumstance that this government found itself, with production of oil dropping down at a point to 700,000 barrels per day, with oil prices dropping to as low as nearly $30 per barrel, with that type of resources, and with what it achieved, it's an overperformance. Because for instance, I saw one comical thing on social media where they said, tell me in 3 years, in 2.5 years now, any project started, completed, and commissioned by this government, I will give you so and so amount. And I told somebody I will quadruple that amount if you tell me any project also started, completed, and commissioned by Obasanjo's regime between 1999 and 2002. Because you cannot give somebody 16 hours, which is 16 years, to answer some questions in an exam, and you give another person 2.5 years to answer the same set of questions, and you say that one person is a failure, one person is a success. Do you know what? In 16 years, is it not a shame, with all the monies that they earned in under oil, that the only thing they achieved in rail was rail line between Abuja and Kaduna, two neighboring towns, not a cross-country rail line, with a small gauge rail between Abuja and Kaduna, because in the context of Nigeria, Abuja and Kaduna are two neighboring towns.
Mr. Keyamo,
is it not a shame?
Please hold your thoughts for us. Chamberlain wants to come in here.
Well, yeah, I'm just wondering, because listening to you say there has to be, you were talking about the facts behind the figures, how the economy was sliding, the Naira was also sliding, the value of it. But what about having realized that upon assumption of office by the government, how come if it then goes ahead and takes them 6 months to appoint a cabinet, and then when the president goes out to the international community, you say people in the country are corrupt, do you think that any investor who was waiting to come in will, hearing all that, will still come in and invest in the country at the time?
I think it's a matter of perspective. If you say that the non-appointment of ministers for 6 months, how would that affect the economy? For me, the president was even trying to conserve funds because the problem was overheads. Most of the problem that past government faced was too much, of recurrent expenditure rather than capital, expenditure. So if the government at that time felt we didn't have enough money to carry this burden of ministers now and to, begin to, pay overheads and, recurrent expenditure, what was wrong about cutting down and saving money in that respect? So it's a matter of perspective. Those who feel that, well, it's affected, the economy, I disagree most respectfully. I respectfully disagree that was not any cause at all of or worsening. It did not worsen the state of the economy that the government took over at that time.
When you look at some of the things that have happened over the last 2.5 years, what are some of the things that you've identified or your party has identified about this administration that you think it could have done better?
Well, if resources were to be available, for instance, perhaps more jobs, I would have wanted even the social investment program to be even wider than it is, to be more, broader than it is now. But I also say too that the agricultural, programs of government now they are very bold, especially in the area of rice production, for instance. They are extremely bold. I understand that they've also begun to export yam to other parts of the world. That's extremely commendable. So, you know, for example, I heard people say, I need to address that too, that the bag of rice in 2015 is one of those things they tell people who are perhaps not enlightened enough to know the facts, like I said, the facts behind the figures. Oh, bag of rice in 2015 was this. What is the bag of rice now? What was the bag of rice in 1999? And where did they leave bag of rice in 2015 when they handed over to? Where was the bag of rice in 1919 and 2015? Normal inflationary trends. And the government began to halt this trend by stopping, you know, the massive, you know, importation of rice and the local production of rice. And they'll be able to save a lot of our foreign, you know, exchange because of that move alone.
You know, some people will say that, you know, some of the things that you're talking about, this government brought it on itself in terms of its own campaign rhetorics. Now, you know that over and over again we have heard the members of the opposition, the PDP, say that the president promised to bring 1 naira to $1.
No, people have since destroyed that story. It's not true.
Just a moment. I will tell you what is true. The president might never have said it, but I do recall in one of the campaign videos of the APC, there was a woman who said, I recall when $1 used to be 1 naira. I'm being told now that we have to go on break. We'll come to that particular story when we come back from this break. Please stay with us. Mr. Festus Keyamo, a senior advocate of Nigeria and a member of the All Progressives Congress, is still with us in the studio. Just before we went on break, the question I was trying to ask you is whether or not this party was able to manage expectations, especially when you look at the kind of adverts, the kind of sentiment it raised in people. When you raise a campaign of somebody saying, I remember when 1 naira used to be $1, aren't you suggesting that you will bring back those times?
But that's not the same thing as, as saying that they said so. It's just an attempt to blackmail the party. And then,
blackmail the party?
It's blackmail to say we said so, that the party said so. The party never said so. The party never put up an advert to say we are going to make a naira $1. No, I don't think even ordinary Nigerians believe that again. Nobody's going to push that narrative again. Nobody said so, and that is the truth. Nobody said so. That's the truth.
Who put it in your campaign? That's the question.
That we are going to make 1 naira $1.
What was the essence of that kind of advert in a campaign?
It's to show that there were good times. There were good times at times, and we can go back to those good times if we try.
But to the larger question of expectation management, can you answer that?
Well, campaigns are all about projection, to say, look, we will do this, we will improve what we saw, and all that. So normally campaigns do not lower expectations. Campaigns raise up expectations all over the world. Campaigns all over the world. That's why it's called a campaign. A campaign does not lower expectations, does it?
Would you say that you've been able to meet?
Not 100%. Not 100%, but in the context. How would you rate
in the context of the expectations and the fulfillment of your promises, of the APC's promises? Where would you say you're
I would like to rate it in the context of the circumstances they met, the funds they met, the empty treasury they met with the looters that they have since been mentioned. In that circumstance, in that context, what we have is an overperformance.
Well, we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily. Mr. Festus Keyamo is a member of the All Progressives Congress and a senior advocate of Nigeria. Sunrise Daily continues in a moment. Please stay with us.